Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Starring Clark Gregg, Ming-Na Wen, Chloe Bennett, Elizabeth Henstridge, Henry Simmons, Nathaniel CORDOVA-BUCKLEY, Jeff Ward.
So in the newest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we found ourselves in 1982. And in terms of sheer entertainment and fun and just wackiness, I'd actually say this is probably the most, I guess, fun episode of the show, maybe even most entertaining episode of the show. It's kind of familiar of like Season 6's Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kits and then Season 6's Code Yellow. And also Season 4's Hot Potato Soup. That one's a little different though because, you know, with the whole LMD May stuff, that episode got very serious towards the end. And while this episode definitely had serious moments and moments of proper kind of things happening, which kind of was mainly focused on Mack, I think as a whole this was still probably the most fun episode of the entire show. But I don't know if I'm happy with how the episode turned out, especially since now we only have 6 episodes left, because as a whole this episode feels more fillery than it should. It feels like not a lot happened. A lot of the stuff that did happen, while important for the overall plot, they didn't feel like they're going to impact anything too much. Like for example, we spent quite a bit of time of the episode focused on the nerdy tech guy at the start of the episode, who ended up, you know, dying off before the episode was even a quarter of the way through, and that's a whole lot of screen time in one of the final episodes devoted to a character that's going to be killed immediately. On top of that, we had 2 minutes of Jeff Ward singing. Jeff Ward plays Deke. I mean, the song was great. It's always great to see Deke do crazy stuff like that. But do we really need 2 minutes of that? That seemed like a big chunk of the episode focused on something that didn't really matter a whole lot. That said, this episode was a complete love letter to 80s action movies and just a whole lot of stuff from that era. The robot, for example, had elements of a Dalek. I'm actually not sure if the visor was meant to look like a Cylon from Battlestar Galactica. I love Battlestar Galactica, but I know that the original Battlestar Galactica, which I haven't seen, was in the 70s, not the 80s, I think. So I don't know if that is supposed to resemble the top of a Cylon, but it's kind of cool nonetheless. It definitely resembled a Dalek anyway. We even got the bro handshake thing that they do from Predator with Deke and Mack, which was like as soon as Mack put up his hand, I knew what they were going to do, and it was great. Even Mack suiting up. Was just from so much 80s stuff, and I gotta give them props because some serious effort would have had to went in to make this really look like an 80s kind of B movie. Even the deaths, the gore, and all of that sort of stuff, and the way they were kind of edited and stuff, it just screamed B movie. And even though I don't love that it's been done so late into the show's run, like maybe if we had another season, I'd be completely fine with this. I'd have so much fun, but knowing that this is the end kind of made this a little bit disappointing, but it still deserves serious props because that was seriously entertaining, and it would have taken a lot of effort to do that. And like speaking of editing, they even did the transition wipes that we'd see in things like the early Star Wars movies. Well, we still see them in Star Wars, but they did them even in Mandalorian. But as in, you know, the slow wipe across the screen that kind of Star Wars started in the late 70s, early 80s. So they even did that, which was kind of awesome. But I was kind of hoping this episode would be more of a standalone, serious episode focused on Mack and Deke, kind of like 4,722 Hours for Season 3, focused on Gemma, Inescapable, focused on Gemma and Fitz from Season 6, and Rewind, focused on Fitz and Hunter in Season 5. All of those episodes, while they did have, you know, the little joke here or there, they were very serious episodes focused on those characters, and they really did develop them. And I don't feel like we got too much development for either Mack or Deke in this episode. I guess we got a bit for Mack, you know, because he would have spent, I think they said 20 months or something, kind of, and a big chunk of that, probably 19, 18 months that was spent in exile, self-imposed exile, where he's off kind of, you know, on his own. And that kind of was my favorite part of the episode, seeing Mack kind of come to terms with everything on his own, and then turn around and actually go to Deke. But I loved Deke constantly bringing him the groceries and bringing him stuff, kind of showing that Deke wasn't going to give up on him. I love that. I mean, I know you could kind of argue that maybe Deke was just doing that because he wanted Mack to see him sing, but no, I really think that was Deke not giving up on Mack, and that he just, you know, he didn't want to give up on his friend, which I really liked. And even though Deke might somewhat think of himself as responsible since he killed Freddie Malick, I still really like that, you know, he wasn't going to give up and he wasn't just going to go off in his own way. So that was good. Also the whole stuff with Deke looking in on Mack and his brother was really good as well. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was just a lovely thing for Deke to do. Turns Deke squad, I mean, they were just kind of there for jokes. I can't really say too much on them. Some of them were pretty cool. I did like that they were like, even though they were there for jokes, besides the twins, they were kind of a proper team to Deke. They properly had his back, and they weren't just these throwaway characters. As soon as things got dark or things got serious, they were going to run off again, except for the twins. But I really did appreciate how they weren't kind of your usual new background characters you get in an episode like this. But they really did stick around. They really did have his back, and they were actually surprisingly capable. I was kind of expecting a bunch of jokey characters that couldn't take care of themselves, but even though they had these wacky screw-ups, they were still pretty capable of taking care of themselves, and they were still pretty capable of doing some damage to the Chronicoms, which was pretty good. Sybil's obviously back, which kind of confirms that she's going to be the main villain of the season. It's not just the Chronicom, she's kind of the head Chronicom, and she's probably not going to go away until one of the last episodes, which I'm fine with. I don't really have a problem with her. She seems like an interesting character, especially from what we saw last episode. So I'm fine with kind of her being the final villain of the season. She's working with Nathaniel Malick, so he's going to be back in play for at least next episode, maybe more. We know from the promo, for sports you haven't seen the promo, but we know from that the Inhumans are involved in the next episode, or something about that within the Inhumans in this time. So it's possible that since Nathaniel most likely still has Quake's powers, he most likely still has those powers, which would make him an Inhuman, so he might somehow know about Afterlife, or somehow know about all of the other Inhumans out there, which will be a really interesting storyline. I'm excited to see where to go. I'm actually very happy that Nathaniel's back. I know a lot of people kind of think that that's a storyline they shouldn't be revisiting, that we should have left that in last episode, but I actually really do appreciate that last episode wasn't the end of that, because it felt very anticlimactic how they left Nathaniel, how they killed him off. Kind of just, you know, he can't control his powers, so they collapse on him. That's a bit of a dumb way for him to go out, and that definitely made that last arc feel very fillery. But now that he's back, that definitely makes that part of the episode from episode 5 a lot better. It means that it actually is important, and it's not just kind of a throwaway side plot so that they could get Daisy and Susan to talk to each other. So I'm very happy he's back. I also think that it'd be really cool if we had a somewhat Quake versus Quake fight next episode, because as far as I know, we haven't actually had anything like that in the show's run up until this point. And, you know, Nathaniel's had, what would it be? It'd be 6 years now practicing as Quake. He's had about the same time to practice as Daisy had, maybe a year off here or there, considering that S.H.I.E.L.D. has done a lot of jumps in terms of between seasons, like season 6 started a year after season 5. But so that'd be really cool if we had somebody who also is good with their powers fighting Quake, rather than just a beginner fighting Quake. It'd be like Flash versus Reverse Flash, which I'm very excited to see that. I think that if that doesn't happen, that'd be somewhat of a missed opportunity. But considering Nathaniel's back, I think they're going to have a serious one-on-one versus Quake. They wouldn't have had Daisy, you know, be seriously injured after this and bring Nathaniel back if they weren't going to have the two of them go head-to-head again, or for real this time, which I really want to see that. But Coulson in the TV was cool. The effects there looked really awesome. Obviously it's just Clockwork standing in front of a green screen, but it just looked very cool. It also was very Tron-esque. So I know that there's an actual thing that's based on Coulson in the TV. I can't remember its exact name, but there was a lot of stuff at the episode that was kind of like Tron to me, which I don't know if Tron was out yet. I know it came out in the 80s, but I can't remember the exact year. But I love Tron, so that was awesome. And the soundtrack, I need to shout out the soundtrack every week because it's so good. The fact that the soundtrack changes every single episode to something that suits the era is amazing to me. And just all of the synth themes, they reminded me of season 5 and in the space stuff, but it wasn't even that. There was something like more 80s about it that was really cool. I remember that I actually thought, because last episode was the first episode that didn't really concentrate on the time period, I was kind of thinking we were going to move away from time periods, and like we'd still visit times, but the main focus of the story would be on the actual plot and the characters rather than the time period itself. This definitely went against that. This was a complete 80s episode. It was supposed to be reminiscent of everything about the 80s, and the 80s stuff was kind of at the forefront, so that's kind of, so I was kind of wrong about that. But I also love the title card, which looked like, you know, a computer screen from the 80s. But overall, it was a very fun and entertaining episode, probably the most fun we've had in an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode in the entire run, but I just don't know if I'm happy with us getting it this deep into the season. I guess I'm a little bit disappointed on it. I would have preferred more fast-paced, not even serious, I'm fine with fun and wacky if it moves along the plot. This just wasn't something I was too enthusiastic about once the episode ended. But it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so even when it's not what you want, it's still entertaining. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and all that. Tell me if you liked the episode, if you didn't like the episode, and all of that. I would love to hear your thoughts. But thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.